Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Community Issues. As usual, I am back with your fortnightly favorite program. The topic for discussion this evening is knife crimes. As some of you will know, that knife crime is on the increase. Almost every day of the week, we either hear about, or read about, or see something on television that someone somewhere has either been stabbed or killed. Sadly, we as a community don't have any control over it. The authorities that are responsible for it are fighting an epidemic which they themselves cannot control. What is it that causes these young people to go out there and kill someone, and stab someone? Why is knife crime on the increase? What is it that we can do to work with the relevant authorities, the third sector organizations, the local government, the police services, to bring this problem under control, if not eradicate? Ladies and gentlemen, I have a number of guests tonight in my programs who are an expert in the field, who are working with young people, or are involved in policy making. Please join me in my program tonight. There is a free number that you can call in and share your views, your thoughts. If you have any questions, put it to these people and see what we can do to bring this under control. My first guest is sitting on my left. His name is Adam Allnott. Good evening, Adam.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for coming along.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
You have a long title. You're a young Fabians Executive Committee member responsible for local government policies. What does all of that mean in simple terms for our viewers?
No, of course. Thank you. And good evening, everybody. So the Young Fabians is part of the Fabian Society, which is a founding organisation of the Labour Party. We are a youth-led think tank, and my position within that is local government policy liaison. I've put together a report which is going to be launched at Labour Party conference into the crisis in local government funding, and suggestions, ideas and policies that we can hopefully have adopted that might in some way alleviate the current crisis that's going on within our councils. You know,
so it's a very important policy making forum.
It's a youth wing of a very important part of the Labour Party. We held meetings. We're one of the longest standing organisations that helped establish a party that's the best vehicle for social good that this country's probably ever known.
Right, okay. I will come back to you later on, Adam, and ask you some questions. Sitting next to Adam is a young man. His name is Ashik Rahman. Hello, Ashik, and a very good evening to you.
Good evening to you. Assalamu alaikum, yes.
Thank you very much for coming along. Now, you are a community activist. You live in Tower Hamlets, in particular you live in Shadwell, and I understand recently there was a few incidents in Shadwell whereby young people have been stabbing themselves. Has there been any fatality at all, or?
Well, it has been. So thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me for this such a lovely evening. And it's a serious issue we need to talk about. Tower Hamlets, obviously. Well, we're talking about Tower Hamlets and Shadwell. It's not in Shadwell in Tower Hamlet. It's a countrywide. Knife crime has gone up. Crime has gone up. Yes, there are some effects, and there are some good things done from the council as well. I can talk about a bit more about it. I'll explain to you later on. Okay.
Yes, you're right. We are talking about knife crimes as a national issue, but in Tower Hamlets it's a problem that is beyond control, like some of the other local authorities in the country. So I will be asking you to have some input in relation to what happened in Shadwell, because you're a resident there, you're a community activist. So I will come back to you. Let me introduce the other guest. Her name is Jusna Begum. Jusna, very good evening to you.
Good evening to you too.
Thank you very much for coming along and giving up your evening to be in my program.
Thank you.
I understand that you're a community program manager.
Yes.
What does that mean? What do you do actually?
I work for a charity I'm a program manager for a charity. I am also a resident of Tower Hamlets, Shadwell.
You're also a resident in Tower Hamlets?
Tower Hamlets,
okay.
Shadwell. I'm also a mother with 3 teenagers at the moment.
3 teenage children,
and
right.
looking at the crime rate, we have 110 crimes reported every day in Tower Hamlets. As a mother, as a community.
Are they all knife crimes or are they
different crimes
by
youngsters?
Right.
And as a mother,
and does that make you worried as a mother with
as
3
a mother,
children?
of course, I'm worried. Obviously, with teenage children, as well as a community member, I'm worried for the youngsters in a community in Tower Hamlets. I think 110 reports. How many more are there that are unreported? Because not all crimes are reported. So that is.
So you think there may be a number of crimes?
A lot of crimes are not
that
reported.
are not reported. It's a culture with young people as well, isn't it?
Culture,
whereby young people don't want to report any of this to the police. They would rather deal it with themselves.
They don't want to be called snitch.
Snitch, right? Okay.
So where it's commonly used by youngsters.
Sure.
Or it's like they don't report it because they don't want to show their weaknesses. They see that as a weakness.
Right. So if someone reports it to the police, it is seen as a weakness from their part.
Yes.
So they would rather keep it to themselves.
Or they would like to. They wouldn't want.
Sadly, often ends up in a fatality or some serious injuries. Thank you, Justin. I will come back to you. Let me go to Adam first. Adam, for the benefit of our viewers, can you tell us what is a knife crime and how severe this problem is nationally and locally?
So I would like to talk about it in a London-wide context because we sit in Tower Hamlets at the moment. Our borough has seen a rise in knife crime, but London more generally, up to July 2016, first 6 months of that year, there were 1,030 reported knife crimes. But in the first 4 months of this year, that number was 1,438, according to the Metropolitan Police Service.
4 months in.
4 months in.
So 1,000 what?
1,438, according to the Metropolitan Police Service. Ooh. Now, if that isn't a crisis, I don't know what is. The impact of that is, mothers being afraid of their kids walking the streets, a rise in people feeling scared to leave their homes, and what we're seeing is because of a reduction.
Quite rightly so as well.
Quite rightly so, indeed.
Whether you're young or old, vulnerable people.
No, indeed. That statistic isn't just between young people. That statistic is between all ages. And what we're seeing is this rise goes hand in hand with a reduction in funding for the police. We've seen police numbers reduce 20,000 from 2010 to 2018. And that's from a number of 140,000 to a number of 120,000 police officers. That means that there is less ability for the police to have a community policing model, and instead what you're seeing is them move towards a reactive model.
Rather than a proactive one.
Right, yeah, rather than trying to sort out the actual root cause of the issue within gang culture, within young people being afraid to go to the police officers, what you're seeing is with less police on our streets, with less police going into our communities and speaking to young people and trying to intervene at an earlier stage, we need to identify within our communities leaders who can go and show and be good examples for young people all over the borough and all over London. But what we don't have are the resources that we used to have previously to actually identify those community leaders and give them the support, nurture and stewardship that they need to show other young people that turning to a life of crime isn't the only way. One thing that we all have to note in all of this is that crime and knife crime and gang culture is a symptom of poverty, it's a symptom of austerity, it's a symptom of a government which doesn't seem to care about our young people anymore. What we've got is a situation.
We've also noticed a reduction in youth services provisions as well, haven't we?
Indeed. Well, with councils, so the way that councils have typically been funded is a mixture of central government grant, council tax and income generated from other services. What you've seen is the central government grant, since the Conservative government came in, has been drastically reduced. Drastically reduced. In Tower Hamlets, we've lost nearly a quarter to a third of our budget That's a huge amount of money. And you know, there's a certain amount of services which a council are statutory obligated to provide.
And is youth service one of them?
No. It's essential services like adult social care, education, and basically looking after those who cannot look after themselves. That's what it's there for. Youth services like youth clubs and others, that's not a statutory obligation, which means that that's not ring fenced. Right. The council, I think Tower Hamlets Council, under Mayor Biggs, has done an incredibly good job at trying their hardest to protect those services. But this isn't the fault of the local council, this is the fault of central government. Central government has handed down austerity to councils so that community leaders are now blaming the council for something which is actually the central government's fault.
You've mentioned root causes.
Indeed.
What are the root causes?
Well, what you've seen is with rise in inflation, prices going up, but wages not keeping track of that, with benefits being reduced, with household incomes being static whilst prices have risen. A lot of young people, in order to participate in their wider social group, in order for a teenager who's not allowed to work to go to the shop to get chicken and chips with his mates, he or she, in order to raise a little bit of cash, has to turn to a life of crime because their parents can no longer afford to give them the money to participate in their social group. You know, we're seeing a wider crisis here. This isn't just about knife crime, although that is a symptom of what is the root cause. The root cause itself is poverty within our communities.
Thank you, Adam. Just now, do you think that is the case?
First of all, I disagree with Adam here.
Okay.
I think, yes, central government is to blame, but I also blame the Labour leaders of Tower I'm talking about Tower Hamlets here. John Biggs, since he's been in power, he's got 3 mayors, she's got 3 deputy mayors, and his pay scale's doubled, whereas the budget cuts in nurseries, in youth service. So, you know, if he wanted to, he could reduce his own salary instead of trebling it.
But hang on, I'm not trying to defend John Mayer here.
John
Biggs here.
I'm saying, but where is their priority? I think the mayor of Tower Hamlets got his priorities confused or wrong.
But look, everyone needs to earn a decent salary in order to be able to work.
Yeah,
but what we are talking about here is, what we are talking about here is knife crimes and young people.
And
whilst I appreciate that you are focused in Tower Hamlet, but Tower Hamlet is not the root cause of the problem.
Of course.
It's a national problem.
I'm just saying because I'm just
sure. So you disagree with some of what Adam have said.
Yeah.
Okay, and your reasons were, as you've said, that you feel that the mayor could have taken a smaller salary.
Not smaller, even
a reduced salary.
He's increased his salary 3 times.
No, that's wrong. What you've seen is in Tower Hamlets, there has been an increase in the councillor allowances. We had the lowest councillor allowances, or one of the lowest in London. I think it's the 2nd lowest in London. Now we've just about brought it in line, just under average remuneration for councillors. In order for us to have councillors which actually represent our communities, they need to be from our communities, and they need to actually have the time to actually spend in the communities and not at work. We need to give them enough money to be able to live on. Now, the increase in the council allowances has been minimal in comparison to the amount they've had to reduce their budgets by. With good councillors, with good deputy mayors, what you can do is you can find efficiency savings and you can find savings elsewhere. You can actually make the council more efficient by having intelligent, good community activists spending more of their time in the council doing the work that we elected them to do, and not having to go and work a 2nd or 3rd job because they can't afford to put food on the table, because they can't afford to pay rent.
So we shouldn't need 3 deputy mayors.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, all right. Let's leave that for the time.
Let's going off slightly.
Let's move on, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a free telephone number on the screen. Should you wish to participate in this program, please call in. As you can see, it's already getting hot. If you have any views, any comments, anything that you wish to talk about in terms of knife crimes or how you feel that it can be controlled, please do phone in. I am now going to ask Ashik Ashik, first of all, I'm going to ask you about the recent events in Shadwell. Can you tell us what actually happened in Shadwell?
Well, actually, I was away on that weekend. It was, yes, I heard about it, and I wasn't physically there.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was a gang fight, obviously. It was...
between two rival gangs, was it?
Two rival gangs, basically it was... correct me if I'm wrong, obviously. Sister Jusna probably was there as well. The Bengali gangs and ethnic minority, black minority, not being racist, I'm just saying, black minority groups, like, you know, there were some gangs, just to, obviously, as it is, back in the days, you used to see that, obviously, hey, I'm from Cannon Street, you can't come to Cannon Street, I'm from Shadwell or Brick Lane, all sort of the...
What we used to call a postcode war or territorial war, didn't we?
Territorial
war, right, okay.
Territorial wars, yeah. Well, police did a fantastic job, actually, although, and the council did a fantastic job as well.
So what actually happened, there was two rival gangs, there was a BME gang, and who was the other gang?
There was a black minority gangs,
black ethnic minority gangs,
black ethnic minority gangs. Actually, they, I've been told, some of them they live in Tower Hamlets, some of them don't. Right. They just came in.
So people from outside came.
Yeah, outside came. Probably it was started from when they're doing some, rat riding or something like that. They were just like, racing cars and everything, showing off the cars. Started from there. Correct me if I'm wrong. As I'm saying, I was away on that time.
Is that sports car that they were driving?
No, they were driving some fancy cars. Actually.
Fancy cars,
yeah,
right.
fancy cars,
well, on the streets of...
on the streets of Shadwell, yeah.
Okay.
And unfortunately, one of our youngsters, they didn't like it, So, yeah, they started from there. Okay. And some of them, I've been told...
It's a petty little thing that started and it grew into something quite big.
I think it was beginning of, end of July, beginning of the summer holidays, there was tension between rivalries. Right. And I think, we had small incidents and then later it was a big incident. And I think I recall the incident because I'm also a parent governor in a secondary school and a primary school, and one of the where it happened in Cable Street, one of the mothers of the school had to call the police because she was fearing, the person that they were attacking was pleading for help, and the neighbours were unable to open the door because they were fearing for their own lives. Right. So it's something. This is a shame,
when someone's crying for help, others just feel unable to help because they're in fear of their own safety.
Their own safety, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Jusna, and thank you, Ashik. I'm going to go to Adam once more. Adam, we mentioned about postcode war or territorial war. What is it? What is this postcode or territorial war madness?
Well, I mean, a lot of the time it's all around territory based around drug distribution. Gang crime is funded by lots of things. One of them is drugs. And what we've found is that there are, there are several gangs which operate in and around Tower Hamlets, and they don't. It's not exactly as they respect council boundaries. So it's a London-wide problem.
Adam, can I just stop you because we need to go on a short break, but we'll continue with this discussion after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't go anywhere. We are going to go on a short break. We'll be back straight after, so please stay with us. Thank you.